What's up? My name is Eric Butler. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back, and from CBS Bay Area, A's broadcaster Glenn Kuiper fired after uttering racial slur. So even that framing is off, right? Because when you watch the video or you read the story, you will realize that it was all just a mistake. I don't think he was out there really trying to stick it to the black people in baseball, but we know that mistakes really are not allowed. At least they only flow in one direction, right? So if an establishment hack shill makes a mistake, then they say, oh, well, it was a mistake. Why do you care so much? You're a conspiracy theorist. It's not a big deal. And I don't think there's any evidence. I don't know too much about this guy's history, but I don't think he's ever done anything else to ruffle the feathers of the establishment. But we know that they are waiting. They are perched on a ledge with their media matters type of people just waiting to pounce on something that they can claim as racism, and they're just looking for a scalp. So he was suspended a couple weeks ago. Now he's been completely fired simply for making a mistake. And as this is happening, there's another baseball story that we'll get to of the Dodgers basically being strong-armed into letting some drag queens perform at their Pride Night because I guess the Dodgers fan base is mostly drag queens. Neither here nor there. We'll get to that. Let's see what they have to say about this guy's firing.
Oakland A's fans have heard Glenn Kuiper calling games for the last 2 decades. Now he's out of a job, let go by NBC Sports after a controversial
20 years. After 20 years, he makes one mistake and he's gone. Who is this for? Who is this pleasing? Is it all the black baseball fans? I mean, the Oakland A's, the Oakland, I should say, doesn't really even have a team anymore for the next year. You know, they're going to be gone in the next year or so. So who is this really for? Do we really believe that there are a handful of angry black baseball fans in Oakland, California that just weren't going to watch the games anymore because this guy slipped up and said one thing that sounded like another thing? It's all absolutely pathetic.
Moment. It happened before a May 5th game against the Royals. During the broadcast, he was talking about visiting the Negro League's baseball museum when it sounded like he used.
And she just made a mistake. She made a mistake on the word baseball, and that's not going to cost her anything, right? But if you make a mistake on the word Negro, that's going to cost you your job. Think about this. She literally made a very similar mistake, just with a different word in the same sentence, basically, right? So right next to the word Negro and league, she said braceball or whatever, and she flubbed that. But nobody's going to care because you can't call that racism. Now, what they should do is just say, if you make a mistake anytime, you're going to get fired. That would be more believable. That would be more of a... But of course, none of this is supposed to make sense, but that would be at least a little bit more consistent. It's never going to happen, obviously, because that would be insane. Just like this guy getting fired for making a slip up and apologizing, because that is never enough. They smell blood in the water, right? If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. So they are now out to destroy this man's life and ruin his career of 20 years. It's beyond parody.
A racial slur. He apologized for that. He was put on leave and then fired. Betty Yu is here tonight. So Betty, the president of the museum he was talking about actually said he was disappointed that Kuiper was fired.
That's right. He said he's disappointed and he feels sad right now. Tonight, Kuiper himself released a statement.
So the president of the Negro League Museum that he was talking about is sad that the guy was fired, and they do not care. Who is this for? Who is this appeasing?
And calling it a mistake. He also stated that he's not a racist and described himself as an honest, caring, and respectful husband and father who would never utter a disparaging word about anybody. His statement read in part, "I wish the Oakland A's and NBC Sports would have taken into consideration my 20-year career, my solid reputation, integrity, and character, but in this current environment, traits like integrity and character are no longer considered. I will always have a hard time understanding how one mistake in a 20-year broadcasting career is cause for termination, but I know something better is in my future."
Hopefully the Daily Wire will pick him up or something like that, because it's ridiculous. He nailed it right there. That's a great statement. And this comes after his apology, right? So he makes the mistake. He apologizes and says, oh, I'm not a racist. And they still take his job. And this is very similar to the story we had just, a couple days ago of a restaurant in San Francisco apologizing, groveling, because they allowed Republicans, big, mean, scary, reality-based, following the science, man is man, woman is woman, Republicans. That was a bridge too far, right? Think about the control, think about the manipulation, think about the desire to just have every single thing your way. With that San Francisco restaurant, though that LGBTQ CIA plus whatever mob, they are angry that somebody else was able to have an event. But when somebody tries to show up at their event with a Bible and a sign, they want them to go away. We should be able to have our events. We should have our opinion. We should be able to shove all this down your throat and the throats of your children. But if you guys have a secret dinner to talk about the ongoing overreach of this LGBT whatever radical gender ideology agenda, if you have a meeting in a restaurant about that, then we got to stop it, and we're going to destroy that restaurant too. So obviously, they're out to destroy any and everything that doesn't agree with them. And not just, you can't just agree, like I always say, you can't just agree with 99 out of 100 of their talking points. You have to get all 100. Otherwise, you will be kicked to the curb. You will be thrown under the bus. And this is what they do. They eliminate any middle ground. They eliminate any questioning, because as we know, all of their talking points, all of their nonsense will completely fold. It will crumble under the tiniest bit of scrutiny.
Kuiper was suspended by the network earlier this month after he said he unfortunately mispronounced the word Negro during his excitement in talking about his visit to the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. What came out.
So he was trying to be affable. He was trying to tell you guys how much of he was trying to pander to you, right? It's like another example of, there's a clip of this woman walking around a bar saying, this guy asked me my pronouns and I was a little bit upset that he got them right. And it's like, what do you want? Right? He is playing your game. He is in your ballpark. He is in your league talking about how great of a time he had admiring the Negro League players, but he made one little mistake and you destroy his life. Okay, I'm sure he'll be fine. Maybe that's a little bit extreme, but a 20-year career down the tube because of one mistake, and he nailed it by saying that. It's like, dude, are you guys going to take into account anything else? After 20 years, this is the only thing that you can take into account? And while this lady is literally reporting this story, I should say, she makes a mistake on the word baseball, and nobody will ever care.
Out was a racial slur. He apologized thereafter, and today also said he was grateful for all of the support he's received, including from museum president Bob Kendrick.
It's a painful lesson for all of us. It also lets us know, again, in this crazy world, particularly this crazy world of social media that we live in now, a simple mistake can be compounded in such a way. And
I don't, as I understand that, I don't believe there was any protest. What, was there a tweet about it? Like, who was even angry? Who even voiced that they were upset about this enough for this man to lose his job? It's ridiculous.
And I think that's the thing that I found to be a little bit disheartening. Again, personally speaking, I did not want to see Glenn lose his job over this. It's sad that he will have to pick up the pieces now.
Bob said that he felt the suspension was punishment enough, and he feels sorry for Glenn and his family. He also fully accepts his apology. He said they had a wonderful time together at the museum earlier that day.
Gotten a lot of negative attention for the fact that I was willing to forgive. I just believe that it was a mistake. It was a very insensitive mistake, but a mistake nevertheless. And I do believe that some folks believe that forgiveness is condonement. And no, we don't condone what was said or done, but we do have the capacity to forgive those who make a mistake.
Bob also mentioned that this firestorm came right after the museum announced that they would build a brand new facility and headquarters for Black baseball and social history. He said, hopefully
Black baseball and social history? They will stop at nothing with this device, this division tool, right? Like, I mean, why is this happening all of a sudden? Well, this wasn't even happening when I was a kid, right? But now in 2023, every single little thing down to a slip of the tongue is considered racism and social. Like, what are you talking about? None of this makes any sense.
All can take away or learn something from this unfortunate incident. Sarah.
All right, Betty, thank you so much for sharing that. You know, there's been a lot of reaction to this, what was said, to the firing, all of it, and some of that happening online. Athletic Rants on Twitter wrote in part, it's possible to be disappointed that Glenn Kuiper will no longer be calling A's games while also not condoning the use of racial slurs.
There was no use of it was a mistake, right? People mash two words together all the time. It's a mistake, right? Maybe if you're brain is moving faster than your mouth, and your mouth is moving faster than your brain, or whatever the case might be. I don't think anybody who is angry at this is really thinking that this guy had it in his head that he was going to drop an N-bomb on TV to make sure that everybody knows he can't stand black people while he's announcing a baseball game. Give me a break.
Can be true. Tim Kawakami of The Athletic, a longtime Bay Area sports journalist, tweeted, "Nobody did this to Glenn Kuiper. He did it to himself. His job is to speak on television. If you can't avoid saying racial slurs when you're on TV, then you probably won't be on TV for long." Obviously.
Oh, yeah. He was only on for 20 years. Yeah. He made one mistake after 20 years, and it's his fault. Man, this guy's a coward, too. I don't even know who that guy is, except for a coward.
A lot of opinions about this from fans, but also, as you heard, from people who knew Kuiper. He worked with the A's for 20 years. This is a small market. The media landscape is not a big one in the Bay Area. And I know you know Kuiper also.
Yeah, I've known him for a long, long time. But Tim Kawakami, harsh, but he's right. You cannot.
No, he's not, and you're a coward too, bro. You've been on air since I was a kid. This guy has to be going on 60, 70 years old. I remember seeing him when I was a little kid, and now you are completely controlled by the narrative. And no, he's not right. None of this makes any sense, but they just have to virtue signal because they know they will be a victim of the mob if they don't capitulate, even though the mob is basically invisible. It's a bunch of weirdos on Twitter. I don't know, maybe it's a political establishment. I don't know who's actually doing it, but they're so scared. They're on this invisible leash in an invisible box, scared of some people that are going to try to take their job when you could just say no. Stop. It's over. It's not that big of a deal. Move on. Most of the people who are angry about this, if anybody even exists, were probably not even baseball fans to begin with. And this guy's a coward.
Not use a racial slur under any circumstance. It is indefensible. And it did cost Glenn Kuiper his job. He's the younger brother of Giants announcer Dwayne Kuiper. And Glenn had been doing A's games for 20 years. And on a personal note, yeah, I've known Glenn. I know him, not a racist bone in his body. I've known him for over 30 years. He was one of my sports interns at another Bay Area TV station down the street. I have always known him as a good, stand-up, knowledgeable, talented guy.
But he made one mistake, and that cost him his job, and that's fine. Give me a break, bro.
But we are all responsible for what we say. And Sarah, you and I, like Glenn, we talk for a living. We communicate. No matter what we say, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what happened.
Who is this for, though, bro? Who is mad about this? It doesn't make any sense. It's only some weirdo behind the curtain trying to get a scalp to gain his, establishment left-wing hack shill stripes. And when that's all happening, right? The Dodgers from ESPN, Dodgers apologize, re-invite LGBTQIA plus group to Pride Night. So they invited this group, got backlash, disinvited them, got backlash, and now are re-inviting them because they are completely spineless little weasel cowards. And this is what happens when you want to jump into the political game, right? You have no business doing this. Does anybody for a split second think that most of the Dodgers fans, MLB baseball fans, are going to be really excited to go to Pride Night? Most of those people don't even watch baseball, bro. It's the same thing with hockey. They capitulate to this little group that was never in your demo anyways. And then now the Dodgers are condemned for re-inviting what Fox News is calling an anti-Catholic LGBTQ group, vulgar and grotesque. So it doesn't matter. You stepped in it now, right? It's like when you step in dog feces, it's going to take you a long time, right? There's going to be a lot to clean up because both sides are now mad at you, all because you chose to play this political game, even though I can't imagine anybody in the entire Dodgers organization thought this was going to be a good idea. How did it get through a dozen corporate, ownership, all of this stuff, and nobody thought, maybe we shouldn't step in this way? Maybe we shouldn't step in this direction? No. I mean, it's not rocket science. It doesn't take a genius to realize that you're playing with fire when you get involved with these hot button issues, especially as a sports organization. So the A's announcer is fired for a mistake. then the Dodgers are strong-armed by the LGBT, BBQCIA plus whatever mob into inviting them. And we all know that if they had gotten an invite just out of the clear blue sky, they would have said, no, we don't even like baseball. We want to go read books to kids, or we want to go get drunk and dance on the stage with adults if they were lucky, right? If they were being realistic, if they weren't being so despicably disgusting, right? But it's because they're so childish, right? It's like when you take the ball out of the crib, now they want it. So they got disinvited and now they're mad, even though this wasn't a thing. Does this group of people, right, if we're going to be judging a book by its cover, does this group of people look like, they watch baseball, when they get home from work? No, bro. They just want control, and they want to jam every single one of their beliefs down your throat, all the while making sure that you don't get a say in anything, right? So if you're in San Francisco and you have a nice private little Republican-led dinner to talk about how the city is crumbling, that's no good. But we're going to show up at your baseball games. We're going to show up at your libraries. We're going to show up at your schools, and we're going to force you to enjoy what we like. And when we ask you about it, you better say you like it. Otherwise, you're going to be deemed a bigot, predictably. So, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe.